with a potential spoiler on plans for the AEW champion and more. This is Wrestling Hub. My name is John and you're watching the Wrestling Report. Before we get into the rest of the video, make sure you subscribe to Wrestling Hub and turn on all notifications to stay up to date with everything in the world of pro wrestling. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Wrestling Hub Official and follow us on Twitter at Wrestling_Hub. On Vegas, bad boys of podcasting, Canadian basketball player Liam McMorrow revealed that he agreed to a verbal contract with AEW president Tony Khan, but visa issues put a stop to him signing. So I'm at this first day of taping. I'm backstage. It's like an awkward thing because I'm like, everyone's working. I'm this guy that's just walking around and I'm watching, but it's a long day of tapings, dude. It's not like I'm there for a few hours. I'm there for 12 hours, and I don't want to skip out early because I really need to be here and talk to Tony Khan. So first date, I don't even talk to him. I see him buzzing around backstage, but it's not really a thing where I can grab him and be like, hey, I'm supposed to be here to talk to you. It was just like everyone's busy. They're shooting, they're filming. They did AEW Dark, they did Dynamite maybe. The next day, I talked to Tony and it felt like a super fast transition. Imagine this conversation. He's like, I talked to your agent, love your work, saw you all day yesterday, you look great, the guys love you. He's like, I heard you're from Toronto. My dad owns the Ritz-Carlton there. Have you ever been there? I'm like, yeah, I've been there for a wedding or something. Yeah, it's awesome. Well, it's a yes for me. Get your agent to work out the numbers and I'll see you soon. So agent works out the numbers. I'm cool with everything. I'm like, man, what a smooth transition from playing, sitting home while being depressed, getting this call, driving to Atlanta, 2 days of TV taping, and now I have a job. I'm like, this is crazy, but what I'm not thinking about is that I'm Canadian and I'm not able to work, but I was thinking in my mind, because every time I've had an experience with an NBA Summer League team or playing in Development League, they get the visas like this. They pay lawyers. They do it all day. There's a ton of international guys. You get it within hours. So I'm like, oh, it's going to be the same thing. They use all the Jacksonville Jaguars legal team to do all their legal, so I don't know if they still do that. But that was a year and some change ago. So I'm going back and forth with them and they're like, there's not enough here to get this visa. On Busted Open Radio, Kiera Hogan spoke about Saraya's debut in AEW, saying that I had no idea she was coming back. When I saw her return, I was in the locker room. We were watching in the locker room and I screamed because I've been such a fan of hers for years. To see that she's working in the same company as me, I was like, what? I was just in such shock. But I was also very excited to see where she goes from here. I was excited to see her get back in the ring. I think she deserves it. Touching on The Undertaker's reaction to the passing of Chris Benoit, Matt Hardy said on his Extreme Life podcast, they had this talent meeting. They call everyone together. I'll never forget I saw Taker coming out slowly, walking out to where all the crowd was gathered around. I saw Michelle McCool crying. I remember turning to Ken Kennedy and going, Chris is dead. I saw Undertaker and Michelle coming, and Undertaker would have been given the heads up, and Michelle's just so upset. I thought, he's gotta be dead. Speaking about being rehired by WWE and his new role as head of live events, Roode told the Military News that it was all an incredible story with divine intervention for sure. I was released in January 2022 and I had 9 months of severance pay because I was a full-time employee for a decade. Literally, the month the severance pay was due to end. Paul Levesque, chief of content for WWE, or Hunter as most know him, called me and asked me if I wanted to come back. It was incredible, and that's why I say it was divine intervention. I do believe it was God looking out for me even when I was worried and was not being faithful. At the same time, I was thinking the right thing will happen. I was praying and believing, and it did happen. It was not what I was expecting. It's very time consuming. It's not a difficult job. It's basically following creative on television and making sure the live events match that creative. I have to come up with some creative, like some angles for the live events, just putting together creative in the matches and coming up with the finish. So it's all the creative of the live events. Every now and then I have to stray from the formula, but it's really just following what creative they're doing on television and making sure the live events replicate that. reviewing Chris Jericho's match against Tomohiro Ishii from AEW Dynamite, Jim Cornette would give a suggestion for WWE star Gunther when it comes to Jericho getting his chest chopped and having it bleed. As he said, I kind of like the idea of what Jericho did. If it had been with anybody that's actually regularly in the company and could ever mean anything on the program, or could ever sell a pay-per-view, or is ever going to be in a pay-per-view main event, or is ever going to be in an important position anywhere instead of Ishii, but blading the chest for the chops, in theory, I don't know why someone hasn't done it before. Walter, Gunther, boy, if they could do it in WWE, that would be a thing to do. If you got in a ring with Roman Reigns or Brock Lesnar, any major legitimate star, and hit one of those rifle shot swings on somebody's chest, and they got a little color of the chest, that would be great. On After the Bell, Kevin Owens touched on feeling the effects of Sami Zayn's backstage heat as he said, "At this point on Monday, what I said came from the heart. We've done this for a long time. We've really helped each other throughout our careers a lot, but we've probably held each other back as well, just because of the constant pairing in people's minds. Even when we're not together, I'll tell you this, back in 2017 in people's minds, he and I were so one that if he got heat backstage for something, I'd get heat too. Even if I had nothing to do with it. We got kicked off a Europe tour once together for something that I don't think either of us had anything to be blamed for, but I was barely involved. It was just get those guys out of here. It wasn't just get one of them, both of them. Literally, the aspect of what I said on Monday stands. It's just time to be done. He's thriving. I meant that on Monday too. People are seeing the Sami Zayn that I've known was there for 20 years. I don't know why it took people so long to take notice and get the credit he deserves, because he's been incredible in WWE the whole time. The last few months have obviously opened people's eyes, and it's great, but I don't think it's optimal for our careers to be parallel anymore. During that same interview, Kevin Owens would explain why he did not enjoy his run as Universal Champion, saying, "When I was Universal Champion, I had this incredible run with Chris Jericho, and so many great moments, so many fun moments that people still talk about today. I'm ashamed to say that I really did not enjoy that as much as I should have. I'm ashamed to say that I really did not enjoy that as much as I should have. I enjoy it now looking back. When I watch the stuff we were doing together, it's so fun, it's so good. But in that moment, I wouldn't take the time to appreciate what I was doing because I was worried. Okay, next week, what are we doing?" Recalling his experiences with having Scott Steiner as an uncle during his youth, NXT champion Bron Breakker said, "Uncle Scotty is a wild man. He scared the hell out of me a couple of times. One time I came over to his house. I was going to, I think it was prom or homecoming. I was going to do pictures at his house, and I drove up in his Camaro. It was Holt green. I drove up and had my suit and tie and everything on. I get out and I'm hollering for him. He's nowhere around, and I'm thinking, his garage is open. I'll go in there and holler and see if he's in the basement or something. I went in, all the lights were off, and he scared the hell out of me. He's funny." With Brock Lesnar first leaving WWE in 2004 following WrestleMania 20, it seemed he had interest in joining TNA, with Kurt Angle saying this on his podcast. "Okay, Brock calls me. He is not in WWE. He says, 'Listen, man, can you get me in TNA?' I probably shouldn't even be saying this now, but you know what? Brock doesn't care. He said, 'Hey, what are you making?' And I said what I was making. He said, 'If you can get me that, I'll come.' I approached TNA, and they said, 'No, we're not going to give him that kind of money.' I think they were at the top of their budget, where they couldn't really give any more money out. I was making a lot of money. Sting was making a good bit of money. And then you had a bunch of guys on the roster. You know, TNA, the Carter family funded it for a long time, and then TNA started making their own money, but it just wasn't enough to bring in another guy for 7 figures a year. I don't think they were capable enough to do that. After suffering an unfortunate miscarriage in October, Carmella would take to Instagram to write, "Thank you, thank you, thank you. Your love and support has meant the absolute most to me. This fall has been one of the most challenging in my life, but I know I'm not alone." With him recently undergoing neck fusion surgery, Robert Roode went on Instagram after the fact and wrote, "Big thank you to Dr. Andy Cordover and his amazing staff at Andrews Sports Medicine and St. Vincent's Hospital in Birmingham, Alabama. C5 and 6 fusion is complete, now the work begins. Recovery and rehabilitation, looking forward to the challenge." Giving an update on plans for MJF as AEW World Champion, it would be noted in the Wrestling Observer newsletter that the idea is to build a major program with MJF versus Danielson for the title and MJF putting Regal out as the catalyst. Whether that's the Revolution main event for March 5th in San Francisco, which would mean it would take 4 months to get to the match, which feels way long, or they do a TV match and perhaps use that to build to a pay-per-view match is unknown. And this was your pro wrestling news update. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see y'all later.